Hello and welcome to the course of installing a Linux operating system on the Windows machine using the VMware server. Our objective here is to first find out the various flavors of Linux that are available to us before we select on what to install. Since we are going to install Oracle next after installing the operating system, we have to understand how Oracle supports various kinds of Linux platforms and the issues that normally crop up with Oracle installation once we install the operating system, and what is the recommended configuration, what flavor of Linux to install the database also at a later point of time, and then we'll proceed with the actual installation. Now when we talk of Linux, there are various flavors of Linux that are available. Some of the more popular ones are the Red Hat Linux, the Fedora project, which is a free supported version of Red Hat Linux, the SUSE Linux operating system, and the Ubuntu, which is of course a freeware. So these are some of the flavors of Linux that are available. Before we actually install one of these, we have to understand how Oracle supports the various flavors of Linux that are available. Now, Oracle in turn has a number of types of editions available for download. There is an enterprise edition of Oracle which has an exhaustive packages of all the features of Oracle database. So this enterprise edition is fully supported for only some of the flavors of Linux, namely the Red Hat and the SUSE Linux. Now what are the issues that may crop up when we want to install an Oracle database in a Linux based operating system? One thing is that the enterprise edition of Oracle for any version, say for a 10G Oracle database, the enterprise edition is not supported for some Linux operating system. Say for example, the Ubuntu operating system is not a fully supported platform for Oracle 10G database. Oracle certifies various operating systems to make sure which of them can be used with the database as such. So this Ubuntu is not a certified or a supported platform for Oracle. Same way, the Fedora Linux, which is a free project of the Red Hat, is not supported for an Oracle Enterprise Edition. So what do? Before we actually go ahead with installation of Linux, the best thing would be to visit this link from oracle.com, which gives us a list of the various platforms that are supported for the various versions of Oracle database. So if you go look at this, we'll get an exhaustive idea as to which is supported by Oracle. Now for our use, if we are going to use any Linux based platform, say Ubuntu or Fedora, then we can go ahead only with the installation of Oracle 10G Express Edition. Now this Express Edition is fully supported for any Linux based platform. But if our intention is to install an enterprise edition of Oracle database, then we only have two choices. We could either install a Red Hat Linux or we could go ahead with a SUSE Linux. Since we have a 60-day evaluation version of SUSE Linux available for free, I am going to go ahead and install the SUSE Linux for you, and then in the next course we will be installing an Oracle 10G Enterprise Edition database on this SUSE operating system. So let me go ahead and download the SUSE Linux so that we could install them on the Windows machine that we have through the VMware server. This is the SUSE Linux website, which has a download eval click for the SUSE Linux Enterprise server. This is the one that we are going to install. So we have to click on the download eval, which will take us to the page where we could download the enterprise server package of SUSE Linux. There is a 60-day download evaluation period, after which there will be no support available from the novel website. So depending on our operating system, which is x86, we are going to do it on a Linux based system. So we have to click on to this hyperlink to do the download. Before that, we have to create an account in this website, in the novel website, and then we would be given an activation code in an email. Using that activation code, we can actually download the SUSE Linux Enterprise 10 Server Pack 2 for our use, to be used as an operating system. Now I have downloaded the SUSE Linux operating system from the website I showed you, and I have saved it locally. The ISO image, I have saved it in my local directory. Now I am going to use the VMware server to actually do the installation of the SUSE Linux operating system in my Windows machine. To do that, let me first create a virtual machine by clicking on this new virtual machine. Now the wizard for the virtual machine starts. This will be a very detailed instruction of the step-by-step process that is involved in installing the SUSE Linux operating system. Okay, let us click next and proceed with the installation. Now there are two choices. If I want to do a typical configuration of the operating system, or if I want to customize, I am going to do a typical configuration of the operating system. Now I have to select what kind of operating system I am going to install as a virtual machine. As I told you, I am going to install a Linux operating system, and then we will have to click the flavor of the Linux that we are going to install. We are going to install a SUSE Linux Enterprise server. So selecting these two, and we have to say next. Now we have to specify the name of the virtual machine and the location where the files for the virtual machine will be kept. I have named it as SUSE Linux operating server itself, and I will be storing it under C. There is a directory for virtual machines, and I have named the subdirectory also as SUSE Linux Enterprise server. If no such directory is there, it would be created for me. So let me proceed with the installation. Okay, now I have to say the type of network that I will be using. Whether I will be using a bridged networking, or I would be using a host only networking, or I do not want a network connection at all. I am going to select the bridged networking here, which is the recommended one, and then proceed with my installation. The next option now that we need to give is the disk space that is available and how much can it be allocated. There are two choices here. The total disk capacity can be allocated now itself, or we could split the entire disk into two files and allocate it later. I am going to allocate the disk space now by clicking on this finish. So this is creating the disk for me. Now the disk has been created and the empty virtual machine has been created for me. So the next step would be to edit the virtual machine settings. Let's click on the edit virtual machine settings, and I have to give the ISO image that we downloaded as the CD-ROM drive to begin our installation. Now use physical drive is enabled here. I have to change by saying use ISO image and indicate the directory which has the ISO images. Now I have put it inside C. So there are two ISO images. Let me give the first ISO image for installation. So I have to change this and then say OK. So now the change is reflected here. It will use the ISO image when we try to start the.
Thank you for viewing the video. Because of the video size limitation, we cannot post the complete video. Please visit www.learningdom.com to view the remaining video. Thank you.